good.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to hear more about that actually, about your Thanksgiving. So tell me about your Thanksgiving this year and when
So
you could even start with like what happened while you're back in the hospital, and then we can go way back and talk about the story
perfect.
from this
So
year since we're
yeah,
talking about
so
it.
my son last Thursday, in fact, a week ago. What's today?
Right.
Friday. So a week ago yesterday, he started running fever late in the evening and thought, great, here we go. Something's brewing. Well, let's see what it is in the morning. He had one more day of school, then we had the break. The next morning, he was still running fever. So I said, well, your break's starting early. I had to go to work, so my husband took him to the doctor, and they said, well, it's another UTI. We can talk more about why he's prone to this. And on Sunday, we got the culture results back to tell us which antibiotic was going to be the best one. I talked to the on-call doctor, and she said, well, looks like this one will be that. So I said, cool. So I went to the pharmacy, got it. He got a dose. So I ran some errands. And about 4 hours later, I got home, and he was laying on the couch, and he just did not look right. And his fever was 103.7. And I said, I'm done with this. This is too high. He doesn't look good, and something's wrong. And I had said on Facebook when I made a post, I said, one thing I've learned as a special needs mom, when your child just doesn't look right, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because we got here, he was super sick. They flirted with the idea of putting him in ICU, but his vitals were stable enough that he didn't have to go. So we got here, he's still having small fevers. He kept high fevers until about the beginning of the day yesterday. And this is on all on IV antibiotics. So he's significantly improved today. They're already talking about us going home either tomorrow or the next day.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yay. Okay.
I'm very happy about
We'll
this.
keep it in our prayers that he gets home. So then this is all from the UTI. There wasn't something else going on.
Well, that we know of.
Okay.
They
Right.
thought initially it was all UTI, but it turned out to be a kidney infection, which is called pyelonephritis, which is a little bit more complicated. And the kidneys just don't like to use antibiotics as much as the bladder does. So
Oh, okay.
they're not as open to them. And he was a little bit more sick than the average bear. Uh,
Sure.
so, but we got here, and I'm thinking, okay, well, certainly we'll be home before Thanksgiving.
Sure. Yeah. You thought you had a week, right?
Right. And a friend of mine saw that we were here, and she said, don't worry about lunch on Thursday. I'm bringing lunch. Okay. She shows up with ham, macaroni and cheese, scalloped potatoes, green beans, rolls, a pie, and iced tea. I
Oh,
set it up on the cabinet right across from me and set the tray table, the overbed table. And when my husband got here, I said, dinner's ready.
oh,
We sat down and we had us a good gorging.
good.
And
Like
it was
like
nice.
everyone else, right? You got to do,
Right. Ours just looked a little different than everyone else's.
I know, it's like, right, it's the trick, like create the normalcy
We
in
try.
chaos, right?
We try.
Yeah. What a neat friend. So how long have you had this friend
Oh
for?
gosh. Probably 3 years.
Okay.
It'll be 3 years this summer. Well, this past summer was 3 years. And we met from a business we all do together. There's a big group of us, and then there's a larger group nationwide. But um, they're just, I mean, we show up for each other. We're family by this point.
Well, if you want to share her name, we can give her a shout out.
Her name is Donna.
Donna,
Donna Barrett.
you're
She's
amazing,
she's my
Donna.
girl.
Thank you, Donna. It's exactly what the whole world needs is more
Yeah.
Donnas. So
Everybody needs a Donna.
everybody needs a Donna. Oh, well, what a sweet lady. Okay, we can go back to the beginning, but you were
Okay, cool.
telling me that, and I'm like, oh, that's the cutest thing. I'm sure that there are other moms who are doing the same stuff and have a Thanksgiving set up in a room somewhere. We did Easter in one of Millie's PICU rooms.
Oh
So
wow. We've done New Year's Eve in the family room in the PICU
okay,
one
yeah.
year. And that's a tradition. My husband and I, when we even started dating, we just didn't want to go out for New Year's Eve.
Uh-huh.
So we got takeout from Saltgrass Steakhouse, and we turned it into a tradition. We've been married now 18 years. We've been doing this thing for the last 20 New Year's Eves.
Wow.
So for
From the
20
same
years,
place? The same
Well,
restaurant?
not the same exact restaurant, but with saltgrass. We get the same thing every year and we eat it
Oh,
on our coffee table, and that's just what we do.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself and your family and all of the things.
So I live in a northwest suburb of Houston. I've been here since I was 17. I think I moved here my senior year. And I met my husband at church about 20 years ago. We got married in 2006.
A good
We,
place to meet. That's where
yes,
we met at church too.
awesome. We both knew that we wanted children pretty much right away. And I think we were pregnant 2 months later. So,
Really? Wow.
yeah, I was like, I basically interviewed him on our second date. And I
Okay.
said, if you are at all wanting to run because I'm asking these questions, the door's right over there. So
Good. Okay,
if
you knew
you
it.
are not cool with any of this, then we can just call it now. And he just
He
said,
was
okay.
all in.
He just sat there and I went, all right, there's my answer, our first question.
Nice, nice.
So we've been married 18 years. We have 2 children. Our son is 17. He was our challenge baby. I found out at 20 weeks he was going to have issues. We were told he may not survive the pregnancy. Um, and we were referred to fetal intervention almost immediately. In fact, my first ultrasound, they found the problem, and that was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were downtown by 8 o'clock the next morning, seeing a specialist. Um, when he was 3.5, we had our second baby, completely normal, if normal, if you will,
Yeah, yeah.
completely uneventful pregnancy, and she's beautiful in 14 and is going to be a freshman in high school next year.
Oh, my twins just were freshmen this year. That was
Oh,
the
wow.
time we met before we started. She's
Yeah.
14. I know. Oh, it's hard when they
He's
decide to
waking
grow
up
up.
right now. He's stirred around a little bit. You okay, bud? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what are some of what's his, does he have a diagnosis or what's the
So
what are the things
he
that
was
you
born. I'm going to turn the volume up just a little bit. And my alarm
sure.
is going on. Please hold for just 1 second, buddy. You want some
Yes.
water? No, you don't want any water. Okay. So he has what's called prune belly syndrome. I am so sorry. I knew this was going to happen. So he has what's called prune belly syndrome. It's also known as Eagle-Barrett syndrome. There's 3 things that happen with this. The little boys' noogies are undescended. They sometimes will have very little, if any, tummy muscle. And are you okay? And he had a urethral blockage in utero.
Okay.
So with this urethral blockage, it blocked, and then the bladder started to grow and grow and grow because your kidneys are already making urine. That's kind of where your amniotic fluid comes from.
Okay.
And the baby swallows pees. Well, he
Sure.
couldn't pee, so he was swallowing all of it. And I looked at 5 months pregnant. I looked at 20 weeks. I looked like I wasn't pregnant at all.
Wow.
And I thought,
Was
well,
he was
what?
small?
Say again.
Was he small then?
He was probably, yeah. I mean, well, not really. He was swallowing all of this, and his bladder was growing and growing and growing. And finally, it developed the pinhole leak. So, like you would poke a balloon and go, kind of like that. And so his belly started filling up, and I had no fluid at all. So he was kind of stuck. So when they found all this on the ultrasound, I had no idea anything was wrong. And the doctor was like,
Oh
and
no.
the mood in the room just, and I felt it. I looked at her face. I said, tell me now. And she told us, and she said, your baby's in trouble. You need to get downtown. Let me get on the phone. I'll come right back. Completely fell to pieces because every dream I had for a normal pregnancy that, you have a normal pregnancy, you go to the hospital, you have your baby, you go home. That ain't what happened. And so all of that was completely just in that moment happened that we weren't going to have that. And we were told and I have somebody coming in here in just a second. Hi, I'm on a podcast. Can you give me about half an hour? I am so sorry to do this. I apologize. Perfect. Okay. Oh, he's good. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Respiratory therapy is here. So,
Yeah. Oh, if you want to pause, I'm good too. If you need
no,
to.
we're good. She was just
Okay.
checking in on. Yeah,
Okay.
we're good. We're good. So, they said that what we were going to do, he did an ultrasound, figured out the problem, and kind of formulated a plan. I went in the next day. We went in for the next 2 or 3 days. They did a procedure where they, oh, this was fun, poked a needle into me, into him via ultrasound and withdrew some of the fluid, and it looked terrible. It looked like ditch water.
Oh,
But that was the urine he was making that had been sitting there.
sure.
Um, then we went back the next day and he drew it back and it was fresh urine. So that meant the kidneys were working. He goes, well,
Okay.
there's a good thing. That is a positive sign. And so he said, we don't even have to do the third test. So they were able to determine from that test, do genetic testing. He couldn't see the gender of the baby via ultrasound. So we figured out from pee what flavor our baby
Boy.
was going to be, right?
Yay.
Um, and he even told us, he said, having a boy is more desirable in this condition because of the anatomy. Your urethra is longer, there's more to work with. Little girls usually don't do well at all. They usually are typically lost during the pregnancy. So we we got our boy. And then we had several procedures after that, which put me in the hospital for overnight after each procedure and then on bed rest at home for a week, all while trying to work full time.
Oh, goodness. What were you doing? What's your
I'm a nurse practitioner now. Back then, I was working in an adult intensive care unit as an RN,
Oh,
and I
goodness.
was told take off as much time as you need. You know, we're here for you. Blah blah blah
Sure.
blah blah. Um, and then we were referred to fetal intervention at Texas Children's Hospital. So amazing, amazing place. I credit two different doctors with saving his life.
Yeah.
Um, and then one of the doctors, his wife was the coordinator of the program. She and her husband and our family are all still close friends. We still
Uh,
keep in touch.
I love that. I love when there's like people from the NICU or from hospital
Mhm.
who just become family.
Oh yeah, and I'm still Facebook friends with a lot of the NICU nurses.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all still keep in touch, and they're like, "God, Tyler's growing so big." So
Yeah, I'm 17. That's a
yep.
big, that's awesome. So amazing. Okay. So they did, what kind of procedures did they do?
So
They,
they took me to the OR. They sedated me. Yay. Basically
yeah,
did the
for
same
that
thing the
one.
first doctor did, right? So they went in and they had to get a specific spot. And now he wants water. Here you go, buddy. No, you want the full water. He
Yeah.
wants the one that's more full than the other one. They went into me and into a specific spot on the abdomen because he was so full of urine there. And they put in a shunt, which is a small little plastic tube with coils on either end that
Sure.
was going to help I guess, me grow and have fluid around him.
Okay.
They also did an amnio infusion, which gave me extra fluid. And I tell people I woke up pregnant
Yeah.
because when I woke up, I'm like, I'm 5 months pregnant suddenly, the belly and everything. And I thought, where did that come from? Um,
All new clothes, the same the next
right. I
day.
was like, all of a sudden I have a belly. Ooh, I have a bump now. And it was
Oh,
actually kind of comical because, whoa, he just burped. I don't know if y'all heard that,
oh, we didn't.
but careful, Betty. So then I got to go home the next day. They did an ultrasound before I went home. And I was on bed rest for a week at the house. And I was all set up with a table next to my bed and a computer. And I watched every movie known to man at that point. And I had friends
Wait,
come
what
over.
was the favorite movie during
Oh,
the,
I don't remember a favorite, but I watched Pursuit of Happiness a lot.
okay, yeah.
Um, I watched Happy Feet. Oh my gosh, I don't even
I'm
remember.
trying to think like the movies back then. So
Yeah.
my bed rest with my second was Harry Potter books. I had never read any of them and I read all of them. Like
Oh,
that were
wow.
available. I mean, there wasn't, he's 20, so
Sure.
I don't know how many, three, four
Oh,
maybe.
yeah. Yeah.
But
And at that point, I started a blog on carringbridge.com. I
okay.
updated that thing religiously, especially when I went into the hospital, but I'll talk about that in a minute. I was
Yeah.
updating twice a day,
Yeah.
uh, in grand detail, just, from what I had to eat to how many flowers were on my privacy curtain. I mean, just,
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
I'm bored, y'all. Give me something
Yes.
to talk about. But I had two of those procedures. The first one was his abdomen. The second one was his bladder.
Okay.
And so as the pregnancy went on, I grew bigger and bigger. He became active. I had ultrasounds twice a week. I had 28 ultrasounds during his pregnancy.
Wow.
And so I was very,
Water.
very acquainted with this guy. And he wants more water. Um, so one of the things I had to do, of course, was go to the medical center, which was about a 35-mile drive twice a week. And I usually saw had the ultrasound first, then I saw the doctor, got the results, and then I went home. Well, this particular day, my doctor was out. And so I had I saw the doctor first. It was kind of one of the associate doctors that didn't really know me and didn't know what was going on. She saw, oh, a
Sure.
pregnant woman, I'm going to do what I got to do. She measured me, and my measurement of my fundal height was less than it was the previous appointment. And I went, mm. She goes, okay, see you later. I'm like, bye, see you later. Went to the ultrasound knowing what they were going to tell me. He had pulled out one of the shunts. And
Oh.
he said, oh, okay. Well, there it is in his hand. He was like he was waving it around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just playing with it.
Oh.
Just playing with it. He said, well, let's come back on. Oh, let me back up just a little bit. 6 weeks prior, he had pulled out one of the shunts, the belly one. That wasn't a big deal. The big deal one was the bladder. Well, he pulled it out. So he said, come back on. This was a Monday. He said, come back on Friday. We'll rescan you if things, I forgot what, were different, if things were not looking great, then he would bring me into the hospital for bed rest, which happened. And I was admitted, and it didn't hit me until I asked him a question, and I knew, but I didn't know.
Right.
I said, how long am I going to be here? And he looked at me like, what? You are here. And it was like a boom. You are here for the duration of your pregnancy. And I went, oh,
And
this
how
is,
far along were you?
I was 32 weeks at that point. They
Oh,
wanted him to bake
yeah.
as long as possible.
Yeah.
Um, and so I got put in on bed rest on a monitor. I was monitored 24/7. And I think at 30, I had to be at 34 weeks. So at 33 weeks and 6 days, I got the phone call from him. He said, looks like we're going to take the baby on Tuesday. This was
Yeah.
Sunday night. And I went, oh, because I guess the risk and benefit um, got switched. So it was more beneficial for him to be out than in. So we got ready to have a baby, and I had him at 36 weeks and no, 34 weeks and 2 days.
And how did he do outside? So, and how was your delivery and all of that?
Delivery
Oh,
was pretty scary for me emotionally. I remember being wheeled in, and the doors opened to the OR, and they're like, okay. And I said, stop. And I immediately cried like a baby, of course. I said, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. And I had my meltdown. And then the doctor's wife, the coordinator of the program, was standing there with my camera. And she put her arms around me. She said, you're going to be okay. He's going to be fine. I said, okay. Brought it together, and out it came. And I didn't get to hear him cry. So that was a big loss because I'd always dreamed of that moment. Um, but the funnier part of the day of the event was I kept telling my doctor, I said, hey, you've got the suction thing in there already, right? He said, yeah. I said, turn it up. Come on, just he's like, I can't do that. I was like, I'm just kidding with you. I was trying to entertain myself. But the other funnier part was they had him in another room. They were getting him stabilized, and Dad had gone to see him. And they opened the door and they said, hey, we can't find the shunt.
oh no.
Like,
Wait, wait.
they couldn't find the shunt in me that he had
Oh,
pulled
okay.
out.
Yeah.
And so they said, check the baby, check the baby. And they were looking in his little hands, they were looking in little folds, and they found it stuck to his back.
Oh gosh.
So they got one out of me. That he had two in there. One was stuck
Right.
to his back. The other one they found, and they showed me what it
And
looked
he had
like.
pulled them both out.
And he had pulled them both out. So I gave the doctor one, and I kept the other one.
Wow. Okay.
So
So the delivery was good-ish as far as
ish.
you could,
Right.
yeah, like, and so then did he go directly to the NICU or did he have surgery? What happened next?
He immediately went to the OR next door
Okay,
and he had surgery and then was taken to the NICU where he stayed for 151 days.
okay.
So 5 months.
So
And
yeah,
one
that's
day later, he
a
came
long
home.
time. Okay. And how did you do? You said the hospital was 35 minutes from your house?
It was, we were asked, in fact, I stayed in the hospital 4 more days after that, after a C-section, of course.
Sure.
And I was asked, do you want a Ronald McDonald room? We'll get you all set up. And I said, no, I'm going home.
Yeah.
My pain wasn't well controlled. Of course, I was up and down to the NICU twice a day. So I didn't really have time to heal and recover and rest. I was waking up to pump. I was just a mess. And I wanted a good night's sleep. Tyler, baby. Hey, hey, hey. Thank you. So I went home the first night and I thought I would, most moms, I just can't bear to leave my baby. And I think I was in such an emotional state that I was numb by that point and I just wanted to sleep. I woke up the next day, felt like a new person. My pain was under control. I had slept in my own bed and we went back the next day after I got out and I was like, okay, I'm awake. I'm present. I can now handle this.
Yeah, I think I think that maybe special needs moms, we go back and forth between beating ourselves up because I do think we go into that numb place sometimes too. Like
Right.
I've felt that before after like an emergency room where I'm like, I just don't feel anything. Not,
Right.
and then you have to kind of process that too. Like, why don't I feel this or why, but I think we have to protect our minds sometimes.
And
Like,
I
and
think
our
our body does
bodies.
it for
I
us.
think so. I
And
think
we're
that your
like,
body
why
needs
am
to
I
heal you
not
first for us
just
to,
falling
yeah.
apart? Like, am I
Yeah.
normal? It's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, because my body needs me to recover so that I can do the next thing.
Right.
So, what are his specific needs for like, so you said he had surgery and then he stayed in the NICU. I guess we could talk a little bit about the NICU, but then more like his specific things that he needs throughout. Like what kind of things are,
So he had a lot of respiratory issues. He was diagnosed with tracheobronchomalacia. That's a mouthful. It's basically a floppy airway because he was early.
sure.
And all it needed was pressure, like pressure coming in, so air pressure. So they had to do a tracheostomy. He was on a ventilator for probably a good 2 and 3/4 years ish,
Okay,
um, just to keep that airway open. And growing just cures that. So
sure,
when he was 3 and a half, he got his trach out. He came off the vent about 6 months prior, but he would have it on at night. Then he
sure.
weaned to just oxygen at night.
Kind of weaned off that,
Then he
yeah.
weaned to having it capped. Then we took it out and it was supposed to grow closed, but it had the tiniest little pinhole thing. And the cutest thing about that was when he hiccuped, he would squeak.
Oh no, how cute.
Oh, and I knew they wouldn't leave it open like that, but I was like, can you just leave it? He's so cute when he does that. But they closed it surgically. But
Sure.
so now he is tube fed. He is nonverbal. He's autistic. He gets frequent UTIs just because of all the damage to the bladder. He developed neurogenic bladder, which his bladder just holds urine that he doesn't pee. So we have to go in and get it through a special place in his belly button. And oh gosh, what else? You name it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about because this is one of the things that we haven't had as much like conversation about, but I know we have a lot of mamas who have autistic kids. So let's talk a little bit about the autism and where like how soon did you know? Does that come with this diagnosis often or like
Not
what
not
things kind of
necessarily. Yeah.
helped with that? Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily. We knew he would be developmentally delayed just because he had an event. I think it was right at 6 months. He had an anoxic event. He plugged his trach, and we almost lost him at home by myself. But
Always, it's always at home by
it's
yourself.
always, always at home by
I
yourself.
don't know why, but
Yeah,
yes, it always
and
is.
sometimes at night, but this wasn't at night. But anyway,
Yes.
so he had that on top of everything, plus the developmental delays, and probably around, if I had to guess, probably age 3. I was like, he's not meeting milestones that he should be meeting at 2 years old,
Sure.
because we knew he was behind. So he kept getting further and further and further and further behind. So we were eased into it sort of.
Sure.
Um, we were noticing little things and not really social, wouldn't really look at us. He kind of started kind of disappearing. And I tell people he disappeared into his own little world.
Mhm.
And through intensive therapies and a lot of support from all of his therapists and doctors and whatnot, he's as functioning as he's going to get. He understands a lot,
Yeah.
can kind of sort of tell us what he needs. Like I know his little motions, like, oh, that motion means he wants water.
Right.
Um, he, if he
And
wants
he
to go
doesn't use
for,
like a talking device or anything like that.
no, he can sometimes do it. I can ask him, hey, buddy, do this. And he'll put his arms up. Hey, buddy, do this. Or he'll clap or something like
When
that.
did
But
that start? When did were you able to say something like that and then he would repeat like
um, that was probably, let me think back, probably about 4 years ago
okay.
that he started doing that. He was in ABA therapy for a short time and they worked on a lot of those skills and we
Yeah.
saw a lot of that kind of come forward. Like, oh, I didn't know he could do that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that kind of came out and we were real excited about that. Uh,
Sure.
sometimes he'll use an iPad that has, I think, called Proloquo on it.
Yeah.
And they use
There we
that even
go.
in school. Yeah.
We're
So we
trying that one.
really, so they use that one in school to try to say, okay, buddy, okay, do you want to do, do you want to play with your slinky or do you want to play with the ball? And he'll pick on there and they'll give it to him. And
Okay.
he's happy with it. He'll start playing with whatever he gets.
So since when he got home from the hospital, did he have therapies already, like
Yeah.
physical OT? Okay, so he had speech, OT, and PT when he came home. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
okay?
He had them all, and they were all
Yeah.
coming to the house. I still have video of him standing up for the first time. He was on his ventilator. He stood up and he looked over at me like, Mom, I did
At
it.
what age did he do that?
Gosh, he was, I don't even remember. I think it was
Remember?
before his first birthday. I mean, the therapist would
Oh,
stand him up.
oh, that's
Yeah.
neat.
And
Yeah.
then she'd sit him down and then he stood up again. There's no way he was going to do it on his own because
Sure,
he just
sure.
doesn't have the trunk support. He didn't
Yeah.
have the muscles to do it,
Yeah.
but it
Oh,
was really
that's funny.
exciting.
So
Yeah.
is what kind of mobility does he have?
So he walks,
Oh,
he
okay. Oh, okay.
will run, and I hate saying normal. He doesn't run normally like
Yeah,
you and
yeah.
I. He's does his thing. He
Sure.
doesn't stand up normally like you'd normally go on one knee and then stand up. He kind of does like a toddler would, like
Okay.
both hands on the floor and then he'll stand up. Um,
That's amazing though.
but that's how he does it. I think that's how
Yeah,
he's always
that's
going to do it.
great that he's standing. Like, okay,
Sure.
so when you did what kind of testing did they do for the autism? Did one of your therapists or you, or how did that all
We
come about?
we went through Texas Children's, of course. That's where he's been since before birth.
Sure.
They have it, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's an autism type center. It's an
Yeah.
entire department building
Oh,
dedicated to autism. And
okay.
we got an appointment there. We were referred there by his pediatrician. And we went in they did all the testing. Um, and they kind of met with us afterwards, said, you know what? He's almost there, but we can't call it that yet. So they said, here's what you want to do. Come back in a year. Now that we have kind of a baseline, we can kind of look at that baseline and see what he's doing in a year. Yeah, gotcha. Being diagnosis. And so that made him kind of eligible for a lot more programs, a lot more resources, ABA therapy, all the other different types of therapy.
Okay. Okay. We're at that stage right now. So
Ah,
I'm also curious. Like we
ah,
just we're starting testing in the next few months, but okay, so with that, you qualified, you said, for more therapies, and that's helpful because did you end up going back to work?
I had gone back to work on
Okay.
my original due date.
Okay.
So we had
Wow.
8 people in our unit pregnant at the same time.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so when I went
That's
out
because you're
early,
an RN. Yeah.
right, when I went out early, I told my boss, I'm like, well, now we'll have 7 out at one time. So I
Yeah.
remember going back to work on my due date and cried half the day.
I bet
But,
you did.
I made it work. And there was another girl that was pumping. So she and I would watch each other's patients while I went to a room to pump. She'd watch mine and then we'd switch.
Yeah.
So they always
So
kind of paired us on the same end of the unit.
did you have nurses at home then?
We did.
Okay.
Well, he was in the NICU still,
Oh, that's right. That's right. He
right?
was 5 months.
We did have nursing. In fact, we've had nursing the whole time.
You have.
Um,
How has that gone? How's your nursing gone?
it's we've never not known having kids and not have a nurse in our house.
Sure.
You know,
But
so
how, like with the individual nurses, how has that been? Like, have you had to switch and all of
we've
your interviewing
we've
and
asked,
tricks for interviewing or
yeah, we've asked a few to maybe pursue other assignments,
sure.
putting that nicely. We've had some that stayed 5 and 6 years.
Okay.
And then the only reason that nurse left was because she moved back home to Buffalo, New York. Uh, we've had others that just, I'm getting too attached to Tyler and it's killing me. I'm feeling this personally now, and I have to step back. And I was like, I totally respected that.
Sure.
It stunk because we loved her, but I get it. Um, but for the most part, we've had some really good nurses that really love on him and take great care of him.
That's so great. And do you have any secrets do you interview them? Like, do you have any tips for people who are looking for nurses or secrets or in interviewing? We had another lady and she just had terrible luck with a lot of them, had some good ones, but some bad luck.
Right. So we're through an agency and they're already we don't really get to interview them, but we can certainly say, hey, this one's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Or, hey, we're having trouble with this one being on time. Like chronically, like, oh, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Oh, I'll be there in an hour. And it's like, you know what? If you're late, call me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me know, because I've planned my day kind of around what I think you're doing. And so if I don't know, I've missed appointments before. I've been late to work before. In fact, I've had to call in sick to work before. In fact, I was one more call in away from losing my job.
Oh,
And that day, I won't mention where I worked or who the person was, but um, I got called into the office and I was like, what's going on? And he had gone septic and he was in ICU. In fact, that happened the day before, but I had to go to work, so I couldn't call in sick, right?
yeah.
So I got called in and written up for my attendance. Okay. They said, you have one more call in, and I just haven't written you up until now because you had so much on your plate. I said, the thing that I'm focused on right now is not my job, is
Yeah.
not my attendance record. Had it been brought, and I'm not blaming my employer at all for that. Um, but it's like, I'm not thinking about that. I'm focused on my kid, obviously, right? I'm not,
Yeah.
oh, did I call in this day and that day? I'm not focused on that.
Yeah.
Had I been given that courtesy of, Carmen, you might want to let me remind you about your attendance and everything. Fine, great. I would have made other arrangements. So what she told me was, you need to find someone from your church to go sit with your son while he's in the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was at that moment I knew I was going to make a change,
Yeah.
and I did. I went from working for this person full time to going PRN, which is maybe once a week. And
Yeah.
I got a full time work from home hospice triage position.
Okay.
I worked from the hospital basically when he
Yeah.
was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
and so it turned out to be kind of a blessing, right?
it did.
Yeah.
It has soured. I'll never forget that conversation. I'll
Yeah.
never forget it. And it speaks to, and I guess maybe a lot of other special needs moms can relate in some way or shape or form, but it just has left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. It's such a hard thing because it's hard to not create, like, get offended in ourselves, right? Like,
Right.
it's so hard because I think a lot of times, and I think we all do this in our brains. We're like, you just don't understand
They
the
don't.
situation. So you try to like give them some grace, right? And then at the
Yeah.
same time, you're like, yeah, but it's real hard to get kind of feedback like that all the time,
Yeah.
because you're not getting it from one place, right?
Right.
You get it
Right.
from that place and another place and another place. I mean, like everywhere you go, you're getting little things
Mm-hmm.
that you bite. And so it's hard. I mean, it's a real, It's one of the reasons I really love to talk to special needs moms
Hmm.
because I think that they have really been refined in such ways that I just really appreciate like the joy and light that I feel every single time I have these conversations.
Right.
Like, and it's joy and light in spite of all of this, right?
We're
And
being
maybe
serenaded now.
I like it. I'm just loving I'm loving his sounds. Like one of the sounds he was making sounds a little bit like my daughter. So I was
Yeah.
listening. It sounds so great. Anyway, so I feel like it's such a hard thing because I do think people talk to us in a way that you're really surprised a lot.
Sure.
You know, you do get that. So um so you've worked the entire time and made that happen with and how does all of this affect your other child, your daughter?
She came along in 2010. Um, and by the time she was old enough to kind of figure out, oh, Bubby has to go away sometimes. I said, yeah, Bubby has to spend the night with the doctor when he gets really sick. You know, if he's a little
Right.
bit sick, he can stay home. But so I didn't want her feeling that anytime she got sick, she had to go away, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember the day specifically, my mom had stayed with him overnight and I got her ready in her little sundress and her little sandals. She was probably 2 or 3, I don't remember. Brought her up to the hospital and she was coming up to see Buppy in the hospital. The
Oh, okay.
hospital. I still call it a hospital, but um, Child Life met with her and they had a little dolly and put band-aids, gave the dolly a little shot and dressed Dolly up in a little gown and put Dolly in the bed with Bubba. And, you know, see, hospital is not a scary place.
Yeah,
So now that she's gotten older, I think she's made a couple of comments of, you know, that the attention's always on him.
sure.
Mom spends a lot of time with him. Or, Daddy, why can't you take me to my friend's house? Or, that's not fair. That kind of thing. So it makes my heart ache because of it. And I'm like, what do you do? What do you do? You just try to spend extra time with her when he's home and she's home. And it just kills me. It just kills me.
That's a hard part of this, I think, um, for these kids. And sometimes I try to point out with my kids that like what they're learning,
Hmm.
you know, the other kids don't get to learn
Right.
that way. Like they won't be the insensitive one on the other side of the interview.
Right. And she's actually made comments to that effect. She said,
Yeah.
I think one time she thought somebody said something about her brother. It's like, what did you say? And Mom, I asked him I was ready to, I said, don't you dare.
Yeah.
I said, you are the protective older sister and you have to be the bigger person. So there was a life lesson there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
she said, I'll beat anybody up that messes with my brother. I said, I get that in theory. Please don't. So
Yeah.
we had a conversation about that. And I said, I understand, you know, people are going to say stuff because people can be mean
Yeah.
and they can be ignorant. And it's not up to us to change their mind, but to show them how they should act.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think it's just recently that she's been kind of more aware of that?
I
Like
think so. She's 14 now. She just turned 14 a couple of weeks ago.
there's
Pray for
something
me.
to that. Yeah. There's something to that.
Woo. Um, so I think it's coming out more now. She's going to be doing a lot of school activities and things. And it's like, can Mom take me here? Can Mom take me there? Mom, I need this. Mom, I need that. It's going to be like, I'm
It's
kind of
hard.
torn. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So
And how is your like, okay, so then I guess the other question is, how has your relationship with your husband been through all of this? And how does like that parenting work? Like, what
we,
have you found tips and
yeah,
tricks? Like you're still together. So,
yeah,
I think that's a hard thing for a lot of
it's
people,
a
you
very hard
know?
thing. And I hear a lot of marriages usually don't last because of the stress and the strain. And well, who's going to stay at the hospital? I've got to do this. And well, okay, well, it's all about flexibility and being a team and just having the mindset. And we have this mindset of if one leaves, like if I told him, I said, woohoo, Tyler, 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 thank you. So I told him when we started the conversation, I said, if you pack up and want to leave, pack me a bag too, because I'm going with you.
Right.
You know, this is a marriage, this is a team, you know, and it's not necessarily 50-50, believe it or not. It's
Yes.
100, 100.
Or 150,
Thank you.
yeah.
That's exactly what I was about to say. So some days it's 100 on his part. Some days, like the day after he came in here, I was a solid 40,
Yep.
you know, and
Yeah.
he had to be that. Don't make me do math right now.
Yeah.
You know,
160.
there you go. Thank you.
Or what is it, 60? I guess. I
I
was doing
guess.
200.
So
I'm
he
on
was
a
that
different
extra
level.
160,
I'm
and I
like,
was
it's a
at
200
40.
level parenting is what we're
Right.
talking about. We're not
Right.
on.
So some days it's 100. Some days it's 100 and, and 50%. Other, and then they make that up. So it's constantly kind of fluid right there. So it's very much a teamwork type of thing. Um, he, God bless him, my husband is the best. He's like the best daddy ever. My daughter even said when she was really little, Daddy, you're the goodest daddy ever. And he really is. And sometimes I'll even tell him that you're the goodest daddy ever. Um, he'll do anything for his kids. He'll do anything for me. He'll stomp and smash anybody that tries to come at his family. He hasn't, but
No, yeah,
he
I know.
would.
He's a protector.
He has a difficult time seeing his babies hurt. He has a difficult time seeing me hurt or sick. Um, and me being the nurse, the medical person, I'm uniquely equipped, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
So when he has a tough time, I'm happy to pick it up. You know, he's my guy. He's my person.
Oh,
I couldn't imagine having anybody else there. He's just
I
it,
think that makes a huge difference.
very much so.
And I think that everything you said, I love everything you said. I have the same guy. I've got,
Yeah.
a go-to at whatever we need,
Hmm.
and, um, and the other thing that I have found, I don't know, I mean, we're having a conversation, but
Yeah, right.
the other thing that like I have found is that I have to ask when I need, so that kind of moves into our next one, like, what have you found, for like your personal care or your self-care? And self-care to me doesn't mean, like maybe whatever it means to everyone else, but like, what do you
Right.
do to hold yourself together emotionally or physically? As far as like, for some people it's working out, some people it's like
Hmm.
spending 10 minutes extra in the shower, like just those kind of things. Like, and what I've noticed that for me, I have to articulate that to my husband because I have a good one,
Right.
right? But I have to say, like, I'm kind of at my limit and I'm going to be on 20 for the rest of the day,
Yeah.
so whatever that 180 that you've got to do,
Right. Yeah.
and if it's not every day, it's not, or very often, but that he's always there willing to do it. So I guess that's kind of my next question is like, what are the things that you do to prioritize? How does your husband help facilitate that? All of that, like, when you're really at kind of that, I don't have any more right now. Because
All
I
I
think
have
we all
to do,
get there, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. God knows I get there.
Yeah.
I just have to say it. I called him up Monday and I said, babe, I'm having a tough day and I'm sad. And he stayed on the phone with me. He was at home and I can't remember what he was doing, but it was something time critical he had to do for his work. And he said, I wish I could come up there right now. I said, I know, and I know you can't. And I really genuinely knew he couldn't, and I did
Sure.
not blame him at all for that. I said, I just need you to hear me. I don't need you to fix it because you can't as much as you want to. I just need you to hear me and listen. And I'm having a tough day. And he listened to me cry, and I was fine after that, sort of. Um, I did take a shower, and when I'm in the shower, I can't hear all the noise. Just I'm there and I'm in that shower. And it's like the
Yeah.
best shower sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny. That's a
yeah.
consistent theme across a lot of the moms I've talked to. The
Yeah.
shower is it's a good spot, if leave your phone outside of it, leave your,
Hmm. It's exactly what I did. And I even took a walk down the hall and I just had to look out the window and we can see interstate traffic from that window and kind of sort of from our hospital window here. But I just picked out a car and I'm like, I wonder where that car is going. I wonder who they are. And I kind of went into their world for a minute. I was like, are they headed to Galveston? Or, of course, you wouldn't go to the beach this time of year, but like, are they going to the beach? Where are they going? Oh, wouldn't that be fun? Kind of thing. So it kind of took my mind off what was going on around here.
Sure.
Other, we experienced this his last hospitalization in April. I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of friends, and she called it in the room, and she recorded it as her own little group, I guess. And she said,
Oh,
"What is your?" It was all about self-care, and he had just gotten admitted, and on their fifth attempt at an IV because he was so dehydrated, I said, I am going to say something, and I don't mean it to be mean at all. I mean it to sound, be a sounding bell that mom is overloaded, so is he, and we need a break. I need 30 minutes with my son.
yeah.
I said, can you all please all leave the room? And they left the room. And we were in that room for 30 minutes, and he just got real, real close to mom. And we just sat there for 30 minutes. That was my self-care. I stood up and I said, we need 30 minutes. Just give us 30 minutes. And that's okay to do.
Yeah, I think that's necessary to do. And I think that the moms with younger special needs, even younger than mine, because Millie's 4. So I feel like that's the thing I didn't learn soon enough was to
Right.
say Fridays, we don't do it.
Yeah.
Unless there's some sort of emergency. I don't want therapists in my house on Friday. I don't want to do like
Mm-hmm.
that is our day. She's going to be her and I'm going to be me. And we're not going to talk about disabilities. We're not going to try to force any of the
Right.
things we have to do. We're just
Yeah.
do our, minimum.
I even
And we're,
turned my notifications off of my phone. I put my phone on do not disturb.
yeah,
People were texting me finally, and I said, you know what? I'm not up to talking right now.
yeah, take a break when you have
I will
to.
message you tomorrow.
Yeah,
So he's sick, but he's gonna be okay.
yeah.
I'm out.
I
And you
like
have to
that.
do
I
that.
think that's good. I think that's really important. And that's the one I like to hit on a lot because I think that's really important. And the sooner you do that stuff, you can't do it all the time.
No.
Your life has to have lots of little things going on a lot, but you can have like boundaries. And what I noticed is I thought, oh, the therapists are not gonna get mad and they're not gonna, because I won't make up a time then or whatever. And they're
Oh
pretty
well.
good about it. And even
Yeah, they're
if
awesome
they are,
about it.
but I think you're right though. Oh, well, like when they say it would be really good if we could do this on Friday. And I'm like, yeah, it would be, but we can't.
But yeah, that's not
I
gonna
just,
work for us.
and you don't even have to explain yourself. And I think that's the other thing that I noticed that I feel like sometimes I feel like I have to explain myself and I don't.
You really don't. And
No,
and it's okay if you don't.
yeah. And the doctors and therapists and all of them, they're doing a job, but this is my life. And
Right.
so their job can't, I still have to outlive. And their job can't
Exactly.
take precedence over us living. And so I think
Exactly.
that's really, I like that you said that.
Mhm.
So is there anything else? I'm trying to like think of like you have 17 years of knowledge in there. I'm like, what do I need to get out of you? Like, what do I need to ask? I don't know. Like, what
Uh,
has been the most surprising thing maybe that you've learned throughout your whole, like about yourself, about him, about, I don't know, all of it.
one one thing that somebody asked me, I get this a lot. How do you do it?
I know.
And I'm like, how do I do what? I mean, he's my kid.
Right.
You know, I'm seeing lipstick on my teeth.
Oh,
Yep,
I
that was
didn't notice it until just now.
that's okay. I just now saw it and I'm like, it's over now. So um, but I get that question, how do you do it? Because I work as a nurse practitioner in 2 different jobs. One is a full-time 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts, which is great because it gives me
Wow.
4 straight days off. The other one is whenever I want to do it. It's very flexible. I can do it while he's in school and whatever else. It's just kind of a side thing. It's like, oh my gosh, how do you do it? I don't know how to answer that question. I you just do it. I mean, you don't have a choice but to do it.
Right.
So you just do it.
Yeah.
It's like that song Andre Day. You just rise up and you're
Yep.
broken down and tired, and but you still rise up.
Yeah.
You just have to keep going. I think also our faith plays the biggest role in it. That's
Yeah.
where we get our strength from, and we lean on each other, my husband and I, and then my daughter, God bless her, she's the most patient kid,
Mm.
uh, understanding to a point. She gets a lot of makeup stuff like, oh, let's go take you to altitude, spend time. Okay. Or it's a trampoline park in our area.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, or baby, let's go to Ulta. Well, she's always down for a trip to Ulta, and
Yeah, that's a good
so
one.
let's go get some pizza. Let's spend some time together. Let's do you and me do a mommy daughter date kind of thing. So I think she gets a little extras here and there. I don't want her to get spoiled, of course, but she
Sure.
kind of understands to a point that, Bubba needs more attention than I do. And sometimes I get the short end of the stick and, we're doing our best.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, well, I guess that's kind of, I'm just like, trying to think of anything else that you'd want to talk about. Or is there something
Um,
specific that we haven't hit?
One of the biggest things that I did from our NICU stay was I think it was on my Caring Bridge blog, and I said, things you want to keep, like any mom that's going to go through this or is going through it, here's what you want to keep at the hospital. So now we've kind of gotten a little older and you don't need some of that stuff, but I've always said, take a blanket from home, take a pillow from home,
Yes.
bring a case of water. We're almost through our case of water that's in the corner of the room. Have snacks, grapes, something to keep you fueled and stay on a routine. I get up every morning here, in a mattress topper, get an egg crate mattress topper.
Oh, that would have been,
Huge,
oh, that's a good idea.
huge. Target same day delivery is a beautiful thing. But have a routine. Get up, make up the bed, push the bed in to make the couch, clean up a little bit like you're at home. Put your makeup on, take a
Yes.
shower, change your clothes, take care of yourself so you can then take care of that guy over there.
Amen. That is so important. I think even when you're at home, hospital at home, get up, take a shower, try to present,
Get yourself together, whatever that means for you.
whatever
That
it means for you. It doesn't matter. It
doesn't
doesn't
necessarily
mean,
mean makeup.
no, just
Even if
whatever
you
it
wash
is
your
that makes,
face and brush your teeth,
yes,
great.
yes. If whatever it is, a lot of times I like to look back at what I thought was important before. Like I go to, okay, before we had all these needs, what did I do?
Right.
And then so that would be kind of where I thought that's normal, Sarah, right?
Sure.
And then I
Yeah.
kind of look back to her and go, okay, what did I think? Like, and some of those things can be thrown away, but some of
Right.
them are like, okay, yeah, that makes me feel good. I need to be up. I need to be in clothes that are not pajamas,
Hey, or sweats or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, you can
Yeah,
wear
unless
sweats.
it's like Fun Friday and we've decided that's what we're doing all day.
Right.
But for the most part, you will feel better. Like I
Sure.
think you feel better when you're having to do that. So
And you had your youngest after you had what, the twins, you
yeah,
said?
well, so I have seven. So yeah,
Wow.
so
Super mom.
their ages. So when we got Millie, they were 20. No, no.
Wow.
Okay, she's 4. My oldest is 22. So they were 18, 17, 15, 13, and 2 10-year-olds.
Okay.
So
So
yes.
we had Tyler first with all of his
Yeah.
challenges. And it's just like, oh my gosh, do we want to have another kid? Then we had another kid, and I'll never forget this conversation, and we still laugh about it. They said, okay, you're discharged. I'm like, you mean just take her home?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Who's
take her
going to
home.
check up on me?
Yeah, I don't understand. They're like, you can take her home. I'm like, you
Yeah.
just take her, let's leave with her. I mean, so we laugh about it. It's like, she was the easiest baby. I'm like, well, compared to what we went
Yeah,
through,
it's because you don't, yeah, you don't like,
you
yeah.
don't know normal, you know? And they said, well, in with breastfeeding with her, I was only able to pump with him. I wasn't able to breastfeed him, but I asked for a lactation consultant. She goes, isn't this your second baby? I said, yes, please think it's my
Yeah,
first.
it's like, yeah, just treat
I
me
didn't
like
get to
it's my first.
experience all this.
Well, I
So,
always feel like I had three first. So I had my first son, and then I had my twins. That was like having first again. And I was the same thing with you when you were saying that. Like and I had 6 kids in 7 years. So
oh,
my oldest was 7 and I was having twins and bringing them home. And I was the same thing. I was like, you're serious. Like, you know what I have at home. And you're just
Yeah, you're
like,
just gonna let me go home
you're
with them.
like, sure,
I don't
you
get
look
it.
like you can handle it. You're 30. I'm like,
Wow.
so crazy. And we lived in Seattle at the time. So, but yeah, and then Millie was the same thing. But Millie, I was like, this is what I thought they should have done with all of mine. Like, they're like, we had to stay in the hospital overnight, and we had like a room next to the NICU.
Mhm.
But they came in and checked that I was doing all the things for her.
That's what we did too. The
Yeah,
one night before we went
yeah.
home, we didn't sleep at all. At
No,
all.
it was crazy. And I thought I knew everything until we were in that room. And then I was like, whoa,
Mhm.
buddy, I
They're
don't
gonna let
know.
us do this.
I know.
Wow. Is there some
Yeah.
kind of course I have to take? I mean, just
And we had
even
been
as an
doing it, right? You'd been doing it in the NICU for that's how long we
yeah.
were there. We were there
And I was an RN.
four
And I'm like, what
months.
do you do? I don't
Well, and I wasn't an RN.
right?
I was like,
That's
I'm just a
crazy.
random lady.
Yeah, I'm not qualified.
I know. So yeah, we did that. And that night, I that night was so special for us. Millie was a COVID baby.
Yeah.
And so that night was super special because that was the first time in 4 months she had seen a face. And they brought her into that room. I had it all set up and they brought her in and they're like, you could take your mask off when we leave. And it was just like so special to me. Anyway,
That's really sweet.
yeah. So
I
there's
love it.
like, but that room will always, so there's like this place in my heart for that room. But yes, I didn't sleep.
Yeah,
And my
I
husband
couldn't
couldn't be
either.
there because it was COVID. So
Of
there was
course.
only one person at a time. And anyway,
Wow.
but yeah, you're like, this is a master's degree. This is like, she's like a PhD level. And I am here like with my first grade certificate trying to like, trying to make these
Yeah, I felt
machines work.
grossly unqualified. So,
Yeah.
but
And you
but
were
you know,
not in like,
yeah.
okay. You're actually making me feel better because I literally was like, I've been doing this for 4 months trying to figure it out. And I
Hmm.
have no, like,
Oh yeah.
and that dumb machine, infinity pump, beeping every 5 seconds. No, if she moved. Oh, and the oximeter, those beep like crazy for nothing.
If that ventilator beep went off in the middle of the night, I don't think it beeped more than 5 times before my husband was in there. He was like instantly awake.
You know,
And
so my husband sleeps through him. He is
oh yeah,
like,
I was the opposite. I'm like, where is he? Oh, he's down the hall. I didn't even hear it.
you guys are so my husband, he's gotten a lot better, but man, he like for years, he
Yeah.
just couldn't hear him. He's like, I just didn't hear it.
No,
Okay.
he hears everything. He's like a got bloodhound ears. He hears
Yeah.
these high pitched beeps, and I'm like, am I losing it, or do you just have superhuman hearing? I didn't get it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Carmen, this was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for doing it. I just
Sure.
and I just want to tell you, I know I tell this to everybody, but it's it's individual because I'm so impressed. Like you had a full-time career and your baby and you're still doing it and you're like have a good outlook. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate talking to women who are still smiling.
We're
You
trying.
you're
We have our
smiling
days.
through, and even the way you described to me your Thanksgiving, you know, I love that you haven't made yourself a victim. I think it's really,
Yeah.
an adventure instead of a tragedy, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
I love it. So thank you for being willing, and I love
Our
the sounds coming
serenade.
back. I know, I love
He's
it.
he's singing now. He wasn't singing the last couple of days, so we'll take it.
That means things are on the up.
They are. They are. That's what the staff here is saying. Like, he must be feeling better. I was like,
So
he
are
is.
there, so is he singing like words or he just has like a tune?
Just vocalizations, I guess, if you call it.
Yeah.
And I kind of know when they what that's a I don't feel good whine. And I think my daughter is here.
Oh,
She just walked in the
yay.
door.
Oh,
So
then we finished at perfect time.
perfect time.
It was
Hey,
so
baby.
wonderful to meet you.
You too. Thank you so much.